Welcome to this tutorial video. This video introduces the domain Legal Protection, Access to Justice and Remedy in the Indigenous Navigators Climate Change module. In this video, we introduce the concepts covered in this domain and the relevant human rights instruments. The issues covered under this domain include access to justice and remedy for infringements of rights. The surveys examine Indigenous peoples' access to judicial and non-judicial mechanisms in climate change-related abuses and violations. Recognition of these rights is critical for protecting Indigenous collective and individual rights in the context of climate change and climate change-related measures and projects. This includes the ability to take legal action to litigate rights and seek remedy for rights infringements. Identifying and addressing barriers to seeking remedies for rights violations and loss and damage due to climate change impacts and measures, and ensuring effective remedies are provided for infringements of Indigenous peoples' rights in the context of climate change. Access to justice and remedy are related concepts. Indigenous peoples have the right to access to justice, as outlined in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, or UNDRIP, but also in binding human rights standards. Article 40 of UNDRIP says Indigenous peoples have the right to access to and prompt decisions through just and fair procedures for the resolution of conflicts and disputes with states or their parties, as well as effective remedies for all infringements of their individual and collective rights. Such a decision shall give due consideration to the customs, traditions, rules, and legal systems of the Indigenous peoples concerned and international human rights. The surveys assess when Indigenous peoples have faced barriers accessing legal action and any court rulings that have been made to provide remedy for infringements that have occurred in the context of climate change. Related to these questions in the survey, there are some relevant concepts that are useful to understand. These include the right to remedy and barriers that exist to accessing remedy in climate change litigation. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, or ICCPR, General Comment 31, outlines the right to remedy as existence of appropriate judicial and administrative mechanisms for addressing claims of rights violations, efficient investigation of alleged violations, cessation or stopping ongoing violations, and adequate redress. In climate change litigation, there are some specific challenges that can create barriers to accessing remedy. The surveys aim to monitor if any of these barriers are being encountered. These include legal standing. Legal standing can be limited in environmental matters affecting human rights. Legal standing refers to the ability to appear in court to claim that a party has been harmed by the actions of another party. Causation. It can be hard to prove causation or what has caused harm to or violation of rights. This is due to the challenges in collecting and presenting scientific evidence to show a link between climate change or related measures and the human rights harm. Attribution of climate change harm. It can be challenging to identify how much is the state responsible for the harm or what proportion of the harm is attributable to them. The community survey then also assesses the obligations of private companies in climate change-related activities and satisfaction with non-judicial grievance mechanisms. In these questions in the community survey, there are also relevant concepts that are useful to understand. These include corporate responsibility and non-judicial grievance mechanisms. There are international standards on the responsibility of private businesses to protect and respect human rights. The UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, or UNGPs, say that businesses should have in place processes to enable the remediation of any adverse human rights impacts that they cause or contribute to. Non-judicial grievance mechanisms are grievance mechanisms set up by businesses and private companies. They need to meet certain standards, including being legitimate, accessible, predictable, equitable, transparent, compatible with human rights, and be a source of continuous learning and based on engagement with stakeholder groups who they are intended for.